Thank you, Barbara, and thank you, Eric. It's it's just so ironic our whole connection here with Alana and Ezra and you and the JNF. It's really remarkable. Thank you all for coming here today. I want to just start by thanking the JNF for giving us this opportunity to plant trees in Ezra's memory. My earliest memories of sort of connection to Israel or giving tzedakah to Israel was actually in my elementary school, where I remember, sort of collecting money. I don't remember how many dollars we needed, but it wasn't much. I don't know, $10 or something, and getting that certificate that you had planted a tree. I remember that very vividly from my Ezra Academy back in New Haven, Connecticut. So I wanted to tell some stories about Ezra and how I will remember him. And our friend Rocky Brody, who's here, was describing how she's going to be mountain biking in this forest right after here. And when we had met her first, she said, "Yeah, I go to Yad Kennedy and I mountain bike in that area." And when I think of trees, and Ezra loved nature, he loved being out in the trees and out in the woods. And when we were when we went on our last family trip, to Virginia, we were in this beautiful setting with these bald cypress trees. And I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to go down south of the United States and see these bald cypress trees, which grow. Most of you have probably seen pictures of it. They grow in the swamps, and then they have these certain types of plants that hang from the trees. It's really, really incredible in the swamps of the South. And the particular place where we were in Virginia Beach had these incredible trees, just beautiful. And I said, "Ezra, you've got to come with me and experience this area of the park that we were staying at," because earlier I had gone with my younger boys. So we got on the mountain bike, and at that point I bike a lot. I was probably biking 100 miles a week or so, and so I was in very good biking shape. But we started biking on these trails, and he was just flying, everything he had, and he was sort of almost like he wanted to compete with me a little bit, even though he doesn't bike at all. And he's just flying down this road for about 6 miles. We are going as hard as he can, and he is just sweating and sweating and sweating and just giving it everything he had. And he just was loving it, and I was loving it, and it's an incredible memory that I'll have. That's how I'll picture him, with a bike in the forest, and it's really special to think about him doing that and having that great time, that moment that we had just before he left Israel, and it was just the two of us. I also wanted to talk about the trees of a special place in Aspen, Colorado, called temerity. Temerity means like guts, sort of having the temerity to do something, and the area is extremely steep, and it's filled with these beautiful evergreen trees, just very, very thick. And it was Ezra had gone to Aspen with me probably 4 times, and he just loved that area. Skiing deep, deep into trees. I mean, a beautiful picture of him. It's on his wall with Molly and Ezra skiing in deep powder, and just the love of trees and the love of being in the trees, skiing. That's sort of one of the ways that I'll remember Ezra. So I'd just like to end by saying that it's just incredibly beautiful to think that we're planting trees in his memory, and that we'll be able to come back here. It's like his soul is growing roots here, and these roots hopefully will last, assuming they do a good job with the tree and the watering.
You have to come forward.
I have to. I guarantee I'll come. it's really nice to think that these trees will be here for many years to come, and the possibility of growing fruit from that is really special. And thanks for the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
I have a picture of Ezra. During Shiva, one of his friends sent it to me. It's this amazing, happy Ezra holding an umbrella, and he looks as if he's dancing or jumping in the forest with tall, skinny trees and leaves on the ground. When I look at that picture, I see his fun-loving personality jumping out at me. He has a huge smile and is having fun, and most likely he's making his friends have fun too. Ezra loved to climb and explore. He could climb trees very easily. Wherever we went, Ezra would find a tree to climb. When he was a little boy, Ari built a tree house in our backyard. Ezra and Molly played in this tree house with their friends all the time. There are many treehouse stories. For example, once Ezra was climbing up the ladder and through the little trap door that Ari built for them, and he lost his footing and fell. But luckily, Molly's friend Tara caught him. He and Molly and Tara and Joshua, they talked about this story for years. They laughed and reminisced about it. They brought up a table and chairs, and the kids would have tea parties and picnics and play games in the treehouse. Ezra really loved being in the forest. When Rami Khazan at JNF called me and told me that JNF would like to plant trees in Ezra's memory at the JFK Memorial Forest, the first thing I thought of was that picture of my amazingly happy Ezra. My second thought was the Kennedys. I've always been fascinated by the Kennedys. And Ezra would tease me, but then he would probe me for details. He was like that. If something was important to me or someone else, he would take an interest. However, planting these trees in Ezra's memory here at JFK Memorial Forest has a much deeper meaning. A friend told me that each year on Yom HaZikaron, in Gush Etzion men of 1948 would come to this place and look out and see the lone tree, the oak tree of Gush Etzion. They would look and see that tree and think, one day we will take our land back and go home. They did. That tree is a symbol of hope and resilience. Ezra was killed right outside the gates of Alon Shvut in Gush Etzion. Now, we cannot exactly see that tree from here because of some structures in the way, and we cannot exactly see that place that Ezra was killed. But I can imagine that those children from 1948 to 1967 could. Those children lost their fathers and their homes. Their lives were changed forever. We lost Ezra, and that has changed our lives forever. As a mother, the pain is so deep. But if these young children could have hope and eventually become strong enough to make their worlds right, I will do my best to follow their lead. I will try to take hope and resilience from that oak tree. I know the loss in Gush Etzion in that region over the years has been great, but now I feel it. I am forever connected to Gush Etzion. That is where my Ezra went to volunteer. That is where my Ezra worked hard and played hard with his friends from Ashrenu. And that is where my Ezra spent his last few minutes of his life. I'm happy that Ezra's trees here at JFK Memorial Forest will overlook Gush Etzion.
Thank you, Ari, Ruth.